Cuts for Social Security are now being discussed. Now, if you receive Social Security, SSI, or SSDI, it is definitely important for you to watch this video all the way through. Do you remember when President Joe Biden challenged Republicans about their alleged plans to cut Social Security? So he was talking about Senator Rick Scott's sunset plan. This was a proposal that Scott himself said will not affect Social Security or even Medicare. But still, the president made it a talking point, and he instead insisted that it wouldn't touch Social Security at all. Now, the problem here is that if Social Security is not fixed, then it becomes insolvent within the next decade, which brings me to what former President Donald Trump said about Social Security. So in an interview on CNBC, the former president was asked about our government spending and this huge $34 trillion debt that the United States has accumulated. Now, before I share the details on this, all I ask is that you guys take 1 second, drop a quick like for the video, and I want to thank you so much for always sharing these videos, specifically this one on Facebook, and for sharing it on Twitter. I totally appreciate you guys. It absolutely does help out the channel. Now, the question was geared toward what spending could be cut wherein benefits like Social Security, Medicare, and even Medicaid can come into play. The question specifically asked if Trump's outlook has changed, which obviously means that he's not looking to cut any of these entitlements. He simply said that there's a lot that can be done if we're talking about entitlements, cuts, theft, and the mismanagement of funds. Nowhere in the interview will you hear Trump mention cuts specifically to Social Security. He even added that the middle class, they're being taken advantage of. Now, you guys could check the footage yourself, but of course, the Biden campaign didn't let this opportunity pass them by.
One thing that I think that at least the perception is that there's not a whole lot of difference between what you think we should do with entitlements or non-discretionary spending and what President Biden is proposing. It's almost the third rail of politics. And we've got a $34 trillion total debt built up, and very little we can do in terms of cutting spending. Discretionary is not going to help. Have you changed your outlook on how to handle entitlements, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, Mr. President? It seems like something has to be done, or else we're going to be stuck at 120% of debt to GDP forever.
So first of all, there is a lot you can do in terms of entitlements, in terms of cutting, and in terms of also the theft and the bad management of entitlements, tremendous bad management of entitlements. There's tremendous amounts of things and numbers of things you can do. So I don't, necessarily agree with the statement. I know that they're going to end up weakening Social Security because the country is weak. I mean, you take a look at outside of the stock market, what we're going through hell. People are going through hell. They have, and I believe the number is 50%. They say 32 and 33%. I believe we have a cumulative inflation of over 50%. That means people are, they have to make more than 50% more over a fairly short period of time to stay up. They've gotten routed. The middle class in our country has been routed. And the middle class largely built our country. And they have been treated very, very badly with policy.
So in an edited video, the official X account for President Biden showed 22 seconds of the clip where it ends with Trump talking about cutting. Now, it doesn't necessarily give the entire context as to what is being cut.
You changed your outlook on how to handle entitlements, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, Mr. President? It seems like something has to be done, or else we're going to be stuck at 120% of debt to GDP forever.
So first of all, there is a lot you can do in terms of entitlements, in terms of cutting. And
so you see how they played that one, right? Now, this is not entirely new. Politicians from both sides, Democrats and Republicans, they both do the same thing. However, the bigger picture here is that out of the two presidential hopefuls, President Joe Biden is the one who called on cuts to Social Security. So isn't that the pot calling the kettle black, right? He wanted to raise the retirement age incrementally from the year 2010. He said this back in 1987. He again said this in 2005, where he specifically said that benefit cuts have to be discussed.
The year 2010, we are going to change the retirement age for Social Security. You cannot retire at age 65. You have to be 65 years and 3 months old. In the year 2012, 65 years and 6 months. In the year, literally, raise incrementally the retirement age till you reach a retirement age between 68 and 70.
Some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. A lot of Republicans, their dream is to cut Social Security and Medicare. If that's the Republican dream, I'm their nightmare. I agree Republicans are threatened to gut and eliminate these programs.
Now, this has a lot of analysts, a lot of critics calling out the president for suddenly changing his mind about Social Security when he knows it's going to cost him a lot of votes. It also has some calling out the president for his unfulfilled promises when it comes to Social Security, specifically the one that he tweeted back in March of 2020. No one forgot about that. He was running for president at the time when he said that the monthly increases to Social Security checks are needed. He called on a $200 increase per month. Y'all remember that, right? There were already legislation waiting for him to become president. The problem was that after he won, none of these were focused on, and not a single one ever made it to his table for him to sign. Now, many predict that the president won't come back to this at all, unless, of course, he's pressured to and enough people remember. So do you guys remember that? We need to start applying some pressure. Make sure you share this video out there on Facebook and Twitter. Now, speaking of which, the State of the Union address has many memorable moments, from Marjorie Taylor Greene's appearance to House Speaker Mike Johnson's reactions to different parts of his speech. But there was one instance where many thought that the president was finally ready to face the challenge at the border. That instance came when President Joe Biden referred to the suspect of Laken Riley's murder to be an illegal. The problem here, though, was that Democrats like Nancy Pelosi, they cared more about the term used compared to the American that was killed. So President Joe Biden was asked if he regretted using the term illegal, and he said yes. He then corrected himself and said that he should have said undocumented person. Now, critics are extremely frustrated because many are now saying that the term used has become a bigger issue than a 22-year-old nursing student who was killed in Georgia. Some argue that he cares more about what illegal immigrants think about him than what American citizens think about him. Now, Trump, on the other hand, he has also dealt with the same situation, although a little bit differently. So the former president chose to meet with Riley's parents before his Georgia rally. Trump, in his usual outspoken way, he's also called the suspect an animal and a monster, highlighting that we will seal up the U.S. border and crack down on illegal crossings. Allison Phillips, Laken Riley's mother, slammed President Biden and called him pathetic on social media. In a post, Phillips said that President Biden doesn't even know her daughter's name. Now, if you guys remember during the State of the Union address, President Biden referred to Laken as Lincoln, which led to a lot of ridicule online. Many say that this was just an honest mistake, and since it wasn't part of his script, the president just kind of fumbled his words. But what do you guys think about that? Now, in what seems to be yet another loss for the Biden administration, a federal court has recently blocked them from reallocating funds from the border wall. The plan from President Joe Biden was to divert $1.4 billion in funding to other projects that he believes is more important. So back in 2021, the president vowed to stop Trump from sealing up the borders. He signed an executive order that effectively revoked a Trump policy that made it harder for illegals to enter the United States. He added that not a single dollar more of American taxpayer money would be used to fund a border wall. So both Texas and Missouri sued the possible action to take appropriated money that was already slated to be used for a border wall to other pet projects. U.S. District Judge Drew Tipton has now ruled in favor of both Missouri and Texas, causing a temporary injunction of the redirection of the funds. So critics of President Joe Biden pointed out that instead of the border wall, we've actually seen the Biden administration fund countries like Ukraine and give away millions upon millions of dollars for the care of illegal immigrants. This means that the U.S. taxpayer money was still used for the very same people that he promised to keep out. Now, let's go ahead and move over to New York, where Governor Kathy Hochul finally did something for New Yorkers that's actually getting praise. She requested for 750 National Guard members to be deployed to New York City subways. With crime spiking by 45%, it was very much needed change. The issue here is that she fumbled that too. So right after the guards were placed, Kathy Hochul then suddenly banned the use of long guns by National Guardsmen. The very same people who she requested to protect New Yorkers can't even protect themselves. The reasoning behind this is that the rifles are instilling fear into commuters. Now, some argue that the rifles shouldn't scare people besides those who have ulterior motives. If you're not a criminal, then you're not going to be scared of the people who want to protect you, right? That's kind of like the logic. Some New Yorkers have been quoted in saying that, just the presence of the National Guard alone is enough to subdue would-be criminals. But what do you guys think about this? As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to do my best to keep you guys informed on everything that's going on. I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thanks for liking this video. Thank you for sharing this video on social media. And I'm going to see you guys on the next one. Take care, guys.